Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my page where I talk about a scripture and what it meant to me, what I took from the scripture. So, I have been kind of like going over Daniel 2nd, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And the topic of this conversation I'm having with you guys is going to be called Faith Like the Three Hebrew Men. So, when I talk about faith, I mean unshakable, undeniable, unturning, unfazing, untouching faith that cannot be removed. Faith that will stand still to the test of time. Faith that cannot be changed. These three men had this faith that was so strong. It was so amazing. Meshach, Shamrock, and Abednego. They were so amazing. When I read about them in Daniel chapter 3, they were not about to let anyone mess with their faith. They were not about to worship no false gods, bow to a statue. Only God that they were bowing to and worshiping was our Creator, our God who created all things. So they stood strong in their faith and their belief and their trust in the Lord. They did not let anyone scare them to worshiping that golden statue. Even if they were threatened with death or facing death. They stood strong. If you don't know anything about the story of these three Hebrew men, go check it out in Daniel 3, chapter 3. You will see what I'm talking about. I will tell you a little bit about the story for right now. See, in chapter 2, the king, I believe at that time, was Nebuchadnezzar, something like that. I can never say their names right. Well, he had a dream. He dreamt something that was so disturbing, so crazy to him. He did not understand the dream. So he knew what he dreamt. He wanted his people to interpret his dream. So he called for his magicians, his astrologers, and his sorcerers. Now in Daniel chapter 2, verse 2, they stood before the king. And the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to know the dream. So basically, he went on to ask them to tell him what he dreamed and what it was about. So I will have to say this. First and foremost, anyone that has a dream and they go to someone and tell this person to tell them what the dream meant, that person that had the dream have to tell the person what the dream was, what they had, what was the dream about in their dream, in order for someone to tell them what it meant. But not this king. This king wanted to, in so many words, in so many ways to me, I believe the king wanted to know who was real and who wasn't real. Who God truly, really can, is all powerful, that can seriously tell somebody what they dreamt and about their dream. That was my thought in that take. So one of Nebuchadnezzar, um, I can't say what they are, Chaldeans or whatever they call them, spoke up and said, "O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation." The king answered, saying, "My decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces, and your house shall be made on an ash heap. However, if you tell the dream and its interpretation, you shall receive from me gifts, rewards, great honor. Therefore, tell me the dream and the interpretation." So basically, he was still standing strong on his thing. He's like, tell me what my dream was and interpret it. Like I said, I don't know anyone that has said, "Okay, I had this dream last night. Can you tell me what it was and interpret it?" How's somebody supposed to know that you had a dream? You know what I mean? And if you ain't telling them about the dream, how they're going to interpret the dream? But only a man of God can do that. As you can see, his musician, his astrologer, and his sorcerer, and his Chatlandine, whatever they call him, none of them could do it. None of them. That made the king angry. He was so angry that he said, "I knew for certain that you would gain time because you see that my decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me, there is only one decree for you. For you have agreed to speak lying and corrupt words before me till the time has changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I shall know that you can give me its interpretation." That's why he kept asking them to tell him the dream, because he wants to know if a person can actually interpret his dream. You know, if they can tell him what he dreamt, then therefore they can tell him therefore they can interpret it, his dream. So, the Chaldeans answered the king and said, "There is not a man on earth." This is verse 10 in this is Daniel chapter 2, verse 10. The Chaldeans answered the king and said, "There is not a man on earth who can tell the king's matter. Therefore, no king, lord, or ruler has ever asked such thing of any questions, such things of any magician, astrologer, or Chaldeans. It is a difficult thing that the king requests, and there is no one who can tell it to the king except the gods who dwelling is not with flesh." For this reason, the king was angry and very furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companies to kill them.